Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, I need to shut
Good
this
morning.
speaker off. Okay, shut
Good
this.
morning.
All right. All right. How the heck are you? Oh, I need a light, don't I? Or maybe it's all right. It's bright enough already? Is that better? Okay. How the heck are you? He is risen. Okay. Got a couple things I want to talk about this morning. I'm not going to be with you very long. I need to get over to church and help them tear down um, the elaborate, um, I guess you call it a set, that was built by some incredibly talented people for the Easter services. So, just a couple things. Hey, Picasso, come here. Now the dog's got to bark. See, I didn't put the bark collar on yet. They have the bark collar on, and he doesn't bark. As soon as he thinks he can bark, he looks out the window, and anything that moves, he barks. In fact, it was funny. One day, he's sitting at the dining room window, and he's just going crazy. And I'm going, what the heck? You know, there can't be anything out there that interesting. Because Picasso's a smart dog, right? So I open the curtain and to see what he's looking at, and literally 10 feet away, there's this big buck just looking at him in the window, just thinking, haha, dog, you can't get to me. Anyway, all right. I want to tell you about a project I'm working on. I want to talk about something. I've been waiting for this to hit the news. I've known about it for, I don't know, known about it since probably September, since I started taking an active interest in the Skywalk system. But the city of Des Moines has approved a $135,000 study to update and renovate the Skywalk system, which, as you know, is vitally important to the downtown community. And although I think a lot of people would tell you that they're disappointed in the commerce, in other words, the retail that is done on the Skywalk, they're very pleased with the fact that it brings employers downtown. It keeps people vibrant throughout the year. I mean, we just went through the worst winter of the year in our Skywalk studios, our Remax Real Estate Concept studios, and it was awesome. I mean, you know, there were days that I wore shorts because I'd park in a parking ramp. On the 5th level. I'd get out, get on the elevator, go down to the Skywalk, walk 4 blocks, and I'm at my studio. I mean, I never have to touch outside. So anyway, that was pretty neat. But they got a $135,000 study. That's okay. Sometimes I get a little irritated with studies and how much they cost and they charge us. But good article in the paper today about the Skywalk system and what they want to do. Changes envisioned as part of the $135,000 Skywalk renovation. By the way, this is an article written by Jason Pulliam, good writer for the Des Moines Register. It says changes envisioned as part of the $135,000 Skywalk study could include better links to key areas like Court Avenue, Walnut Street, and the Western Gateway, as well as fixing long-standing problems such as out-of-date signs and directories and poor temperature controls in the Skywalk. The Skywalk network was conceived in the 70s as a way to attract business downtown. It was copied after Minneapolis, who has an 8-mile Skywalk network. Now, we have a 3-mile long, actually it's a little more than that, connected by 60 bridges that go over downtown streets. Minneapolis is even looking for ways to make Skywalk and sidewalk commerce work better together. Obviously, we've got the new Wellmark building that's going up, and that's going to be difficult to link to because they're going to have to go. Here, there's a map here in the paper. They're going to have to go. How do they have this? Okay, see, it ends right around the principal building. And, but it goes to the Hotel Fort Des Moines, and then it goes into Allied. So somehow they're going to have to figure it out how to get it over west to the new Wellmark building. And that's going to be something else because there's a big empty lot just to the west of the principal building, in between the principal building and the new Wellmark building. Now, I don't think the Skywalk goes to the temple, the Performing Temple of Arts, or the Temple of Performing Arts, maybe that's it. And so you'd have to get it to there, and then it'd have to shoot north to Gateway. But see, the problem is you've also got that new sculpture garden there. And I'm sure they don't want a Skywalk going over that. So the question I guess I ask everybody is really? We're broke. We're absolutely broke. The only way they're going to be able to raise the money to do that, and they talk in the article, Jason does a good job. He talks in the article about how it needs to be a combination of private and public money. And I would agree with that. You know, the private money needs to come from the corporations that most benefit by their employees being able to access the Skywalk system. Now, I would tell you that there are some people at Wellmark whose names will go unspoken at this time, who don't want to be hooked up to the Skywalk. They want their employees to be locked into that campus. That campus has its own cafeteria. It's going to have its own daycare. It's going to have its own parking garage. Some people at Wellmark would tell you that they don't want their employees to be able to wander back. They want to keep them in-house, keep them eating in their cafeterias, keep them, you know, at their own daycares, just right there. Now, that's not any official line from anybody, you know, who's a mucky-muck. But there's some people over at Wellmark who are not concerned that the Skywalk system doesn't hook up directly there, because see, they could have moved that project one block east and basically been next to 801 Grand, or very close to 801 Grand. And I don't know what the politics of it are, but there's an empty lot just to the west of 801 Grand. And so at this time, that's not getting copied. Or I'm sorry, that's not getting built on. Maybe there's something I don't know about getting something built there. The other thing you've got to remember is you also have to remember that the YMCA building is currently being bid out, and it's being bid out for renovation. There are some groups that are trying to buy it for, I'm sorry, something happened to my other screen here, and I can't figure out what happened. What do I do? Control. Getting something my grandson put up here. There we go. I'm sorry. It's the YW, right? It's not the YM. It's the YW. Now, which is it? It's the one they just shut down because the well, basically it wasn't livable. I mean, it didn't meet code. The city of Des Moines was being very nice to them and allowing them to try to figure it out. YW. Okay, thanks, guys. Being, you know, really good to let them stay there. But, you know, behind the scenes, not only were they out of money, nobody was interested in funding them anymore because, quite frankly, is this okay that I say this? I mean, it's the truth. The powers that be downtown don't want the Y there. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but the powers that be have been driving all the homeless shelters out of downtown Des Moines. You know, there's that one that's going to be built over there at Keogh and 235, and that just really upset the neighborhood. They talked about building one way out east by the fairgrounds. There's been yappity yap about taking the old Polk County jail and turning that into homeless. But the powers to be, who control the corporations, who have the workers downtown, don't want homeless people downtown Des Moines. They've driven them out of the riverbanks down there. You know, a couple of years ago, they did that during the winter. They want those homeless people driven into the neighborhoods. And I got to tell you, from being downtown in the Skywalk system since last September, and before that, not having much to do with downtown, I've never had an office downtown. My wife worked downtown for years, but I never went past, you know, just picking her up outside. Every once in a while, I'd jump onto the Skywalk and we'd go over to Winston's or something to eat. But for the most part, I was not a downtown person. wow, was I shocked at the number of homeless people downtown. Right outside the Remax Real Estate Concept Studios there was Frederick's Coffee, and there were some benches sitting around there right at that little hub. For those of you guys who have been downtown, you know what I'm talking about. There were always homeless people. And if homeless is the wrong word, I don't mean to be critical. I don't mean to look down upon them at all. Heck, I could be homeless someday. But I don't know what word to use that better represents them rather than homeless. If anybody's got an idea, they just really look like people who are completely down on their luck. They've come in to use the restrooms, misplaced. Maybe that's a good term. And if you remember the show that I did on 98, I invited some homeless people into the studio and talked to them. I was shocked that for the most part they like being homeless. Now, I'm sure that's not the case with the majority of them. I'm sure that's not the case with the majority of them. But these guys that I had in my studios, they liked their life. No responsibilities, no filing taxes, no, the government had no responsibility over them. They had no responsibility to the government. Many of them were veterans who felt that the government betrayed them after Vietnam, and they were just going to live their own simple life as they choose, where they wanted, and go to the mission or go to some of those places whenever they could to try to get help when they needed. But one guy in particular that I remember, and he got upset with me, and I'm sorry that he did, but he liked being homeless. He said that I like being homeless. I'm okay with being homeless. I like not having the government have any control over me. And I said, well, okay, then, don't complain. Don't expect me to give you a handout. Don't expect, do you want to be homeless? Just stay homeless then. So, but I was shocked when we moved downtown about how many homeless people and misplaced people was down there. The video's not working for me at all. JB, I don't know what to tell you, buddy. I got it here at home. Yeah, now I was probably right. Refresh. So anyway, they're going to redo the skywalks. And, one of the things that I did notice when I got downtown in September is they still have markers up for Yonkers. They still have you going to places that don't exist. And obviously there needs to be a way to update that. But Yonkers has been, how long has Yonkers been closed downtown? Isn't it like 10 years? I mean, a long time. So I think that's part of the update. They also talk about trying to control the air temperature a little bit more. And I think we're really getting into a waste of money. Yeah, you go to some places and it's flipping cold. I mean, if we'd walk from our Skywalk Studios over to the principal building, you have to walk inside that one garage right by the YWCA. It was cold, but it's a garage. I don't really want to spend money to heat an open air space. I don't know. And then it comes down to what I started to say. Oh, Jennifer, it's been more than 4 years, hasn't it? Or maybe it has. I don't know. I'm not a downtown person. Well, I am now. But I just, the money I understand there's some public money that needs to be spent, but I also think this is one of the expenses that the corporations downtown, need to spend. This is Principal, this is Wellmark, this is ING, this is EMC, don't you agree? I mean, we're broke. We need to have policemen. We need to have teachers. We need to have firemen and EMC. We need emergency services. We need what's the word I want? A situation downtown, or situation with our taxes where it's spent on protecting us, giving us services and infrastructure. Now, if you're telling me that the Skywalk is infrastructure and that's how it's going to be looked at, I can almost buy into that. I can almost tell you that that's infrastructure downtown for thousands of people who work down there, and it's an important part of our city. So, but again, just money. And sooner or later, it's going to hit the tax base, and then we're going to see our taxes go up. And I don't mean to be some, whiner here, but taxes are high enough, and we got to be careful what we spend them on. All right. Jennifer says, I've been working down here for 5 years, and when I first started, I used to stop there. It was shortly after they closed. I went to the closing sale. Okay, so Jennifer, it has been about 4 or 5 years that Yonkers closed. All right, cool. All right, the other thing, and I told you I got to go to my church to help tear down what we built for the set for Easter. So I'm not going to be with you very long today, but I wanted to check in and say hello and tell you he has risen, and I'm going to share a little bit of my Holy Week experience with you in just a minute. But the second thing is I want to share something fun with you. Now some of you are going to get a little freaked out by this, but I don't mean that, okay? I like graveyards. Okay, I like graveyards. My grandmother used to take me to graveyards, and we'd walk and talk, and we'd take the puppy, and she'd trim up her mom and dad's graves, and sometimes she'd just take a bag, and we'd pick up garbage. You know, back then, there were no plastic bottles. There were glass bottles, and there was glass beer bottles, and some aluminum, but not a lot. And there was paper, and, you know, stuff would get blown off of graves. And so my grandma was one that would go out there and she'd pick it up. But that's not the reason she went there. She didn't go there to clean it up. That's just what she did while she was there. She just really felt close to her Father God when she was in the graveyard. She felt that's where God would spend a lot of his time, you know, with people who were mourning and people who were seeking answers and things like that. And when I moved to Des Moines in the late 70s, I found Woodland Cemetery. All through my life, I've been a graveyard walker. For those of you who are from Lincoln, Nebraska, or know Lincoln, there's the big graveyard right in the middle of town on O Street at about, about 40th to probably 38th to 48th, something like that, 46th. And it would not be unusual for me to get out of class at the university or just have some time, and I'd go walk there. And it's a very peaceful place for me. I don't have the fear of death that a lot of people have. I look forward to moving on and getting into heaven and spending time in eternity with my Father God and waiting for all of you to get there. And I don't mean to be all holy roller on you, but it is the day after Easter, so it's kind of on the top of my mind. But so anyway, I found Woodland Cemetery, and over the years, I spent a lot of time at Woodland Cemetery, and I walked around. Yesterday, my wife and I took my dogs, both Sinatra and Picasso, and we went over to Woodlands and walked around for, oh man, I don't know, a couple hours, I suppose. We like to look at old gravestones and look at dates, and I too carry a bag of garbage. And, you know, pick up stuff when I'm walking around, and the dogs just have a ball. And I'm in preparations for my family to. I think I've told you about this. Get all my funeral plans figured out. There's nothing wrong with me. I just don't want my wife and my kids to have to deal with that, especially if my death should be an untimely one. If we didn't expect it, if I'm killed, if I'm hit by a car, if something tragic happens to me. I don't want my family to have to deal with the arrangements, and so I've made all of those in advance, and I've paid for some of them. I continue to pay for some of them. It's been a little tough lately in the last couple of years, so I haven't been making payments like I should on those, but they promise they won't sell my casket. Actually, I'm not going to have a casket. I'm going to have a coffin. I'm making a joke. So anyway, I met up with a really neat lady from the city of Des Moines who works in the cemetery business. She's the one you'd go through if you were trying to buy a plot in one of the city cemeteries. They would help you find a place and everything like that. Well, I really wanted to see if I could be laid to rest at Woodlands. And back up, first of all, I'm not going to be buried. In fact, I don't think anybody in my family is going to be buried. We're all going to be cremated. I don't have any desire to spend $5,000 to put my dead, stinking corpse in a silk-lined fancy box and bury it in the ground. It just, not important. And so most of my family, my mom and my dad, my wife and I, and my sister and my brother-in-law, we're going to all be cremated. And so we've thought over the last year or so, maybe we ought to all just come to Des Moines. Because my mom and dad don't want to be buried back in Beatrice. My sister doesn't. The kids are all here. The grandkids are all here. Maybe it's time to start the McCoy family plot. Oh, thanks, JV. I appreciate that. Who are you? JV said I did a nice job on Friday. I'm assuming you're talking about reading at church for the Good Friday services. Thank you. I really enjoy that. I messed up a word, though. It kind of made me mad. Kind of, for about 3 days I beat myself up over the head. Anyway, this is a long story and I'm trying to get it shortly to you. Anyway, so when this woman and I were walking around Woodlands trying to find some open areas, because we're going to be cremated, we're going to probably build benches. We're going to buy marble benches that are specifically designed. The top lifts off, and there are the remains of the individual, and you can put 3 or 4 people in these benches. I don't know if you know this, but your ashes after you are cremated weighs about 5 to 6 pounds, depending on how big you are. And so that's a pretty good little bag of flour right there. So we've decided to maybe try to find a family plot, quote unquote, where we can put 4 or 5 benches, and if our grandkids or their kids or whoever want to come along and visit Grandma and Grandpa, or my kids want to come talk to me, obviously we all know they can talk to me from wherever they want, but both of my kids have asked me to have a place that some of my remains are at so they can come visit me. So I appreciate that. Easy to carry. Oh, that's a neat idea. Jennifer says, I'm going to have my ashes pressed and made into diamonds and jewels for my kids to wear. You can do that. Yeah, you can do that. You can have them made into hearts and do all kinds of stuff. So anyway, here's my long story that's not going to be a short one. I love gravestones. I mean, I just think it's really cool how some people took time and effort into creating gravestones. And one of the gravestones that I always liked down there was that of, it was in a family plot, and the last name was E.M. S-L-I-E. Do me a favor, somebody put that in the chat room for me. It's George, G-E-O-R-G-E, and Mary, okay, last name E-M-S-L-I-E. And they were born in 1835 and 1836, respectively, in Scotland. And they came over to America, and they had 6 kids. And anyway, the father, George, was a stonemason in the district of the 5th Ward in Des Moines, Iowa. Now, we know that in that plot, thank you very much, Brad, for putting that in there. We know that both George and Mary were buried there, but there's 3 plots, okay? And on top of the 3rd plot, and I wanted to try to show you this picture, but I don't know how to do that right now. All right, I don't have all the fancy video editing stuff that we had at the other studio yet, but eventually I'll show you a picture of this. I'm going to try to get it on my Facebook. And there was a marker, and I suppose that thing was about the size of, what would it be the size of? I suppose it was about 24 inches across. Yeah, it wasn't 36. 24 inches across, 24 inches square, and it was probably, I'll bet you it was 30 inches high. And it was a log cabin. And this grave marker was put on top of the 3rd grave, the 3rd plot that George and Mary bought. But to the records of Woodlands, no one was ever buried there. Now, the first thing they'll tell you is they have very poor records at cemeteries across the United States, and Woodlands is no different. People started being buried in the Woodlands around 1840. And In 1909, that's when George and Mary bought these plots. We know that they lost a couple of their kids. We know that, let me get to my email here. We know that George and Mary bought the plots in 1906. We also know that 2 of their children died in the early 1900s. One named Orphe, O-R-P-H-E. I don't know how else you'd pronounce that, Orphe. And another one, what was the other one's name? William. He was born 29th of April, 1866 in Scotland, and believed to have passed away somewhere around the time that George and Mary bought the plots in 1906. All right, what does this all mean? Why am I even bringing this up to you? Oh, Mike, where you been, buddy? Yeah, Mike, you probably just need to call me on my cell phone when I get off the air, and I'll try to explain what's going on. If you've been gone for 2 weeks, you've missed quite a party. So anyway, I'm going to make it my mission. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me back up. So this stone log cabin that was placed on top of this 3rd grave, that there's no record of anybody being buried there, was stolen in late 2009, last year. It was stolen, and it was stolen at a time when a lot of grave markers were being pushed over and broken and things like that. But if anybody has seen this log cabin, you're going to know that it's that one. All right, this thing is 100 years old, and yet it's beautiful. And again, I'll get you a picture of it. I've got a picture. I just don't know how to put it on right now. Some information. Oh, what do you got for information on these guys? Oh, you're going through ancestry boards. Cool. See, this is what I'm getting into right now. Oh yeah, I go to genealogy.com and go through the message boards. So yeah. All right. I'm going to make it my. All right. So I'm going to make it my mission to find that log cabin, because here's what thieves do. People who steal things, especially when they have no value. Okay, there's no way to sell it. People who steal things brag about it. Hey, you want to see what I got? Look at what I found. Where'd you get that? Oh, I don't know. I just found it out hunting or fishing. I'm going to make sure this picture gets out, and I'm going to show people, and we're going to try to recover this marker for the people, for that family. I don't know these people. I don't know if there's any ancestors even alive in Des Moines, Iowa. I'm going to start looking and see. But for the most part, I'm going to try to find this marker, because someplace in heaven, there's somebody who, well, I don't know. I was going to say they're sad because their marker was stolen, and the fact of the matter is, if you believe every word of the Bible, it'll tell you that there is no sadness in heaven, and they have no idea what's going on down here. There is no looking down upon us. I don't know if you know that, but according to the Bible and a lot of people, they'll tell you that there is no looking down upon us. We are not watched over by our grandparents and great-grandparents and our dead spouses and our children. They get there, this isn't even here. They know we're here, and they're waiting for us to come home. So anyway, that's going to be one of my missions. I'm going to work on that. When I get my nose on the trail of something like this, I don't let up very often. So my goal is that log cabin is somehow found and returned to the George and Mary's grave. So that's what I was going to tell you there. Yeah, Alonzo, I think I can. I don't know. It's gonna depend on the help of the public. I mean, my goal is to get that picture on the TV, to get that picture in the newspaper. I want no kudos for this. I just need people to see that. Have you seen this grave marker? If so, please call Crime Stoppers or the Des Moines Police or whoever it is. And yeah, I hope we get it back, and then we go out there and we have a little service and we re-commemorate, and that'll make me smile. I like doing stuff like that. I like doing stuff for people, especially when they don't know that people are doing it for them. Do I want to see the person who stole the stone arrested or pay any price? Sure, just because I want justice. But on the other hand, I really don't care. I just want it back. I just want it back. That's my most important thing. So, anyway. Hey, guys, what are you doing? Man, everybody's barking. Can you hear the dogs barking in the background? Or maybe the microphone's not that good. Where does one start? One starts on the internet. One starts with phone calls. The picture is key. The picture is the visual that will be attractive to the newspaper reporter and the television reporters. But I got to put it together. I got to find out what the story is, and then get the picture copied off and good copies. And I think that's where you start. Oh, you don't hear him? Good. Okay. Oh, Jennifer does hear him. Yeah, that's right, Jennifer. Talk shows, newscasts, word of mouth, Facebook. Yeah. Somehow somebody stole that, and they're bragging about it. They've got it in their garage or their basement or in their backyard, and maybe they don't even tell anybody it's a grave marker. Maybe they just, I just found it. But somebody's seen it, and somebody will turn it in. There are more honest people in this world than there are dishonest, and so I totally believe that'll happen. Frat house, there you go. Very, very much so. All right. Here's the last thing I want to share with you today, if I can. The past week of Holy Week is a week that I'll never forget. It was an amazing week. I've always heard from people a lot smarter than me that you give up your own will and you give it to God. And you allow Him to take you where He wants to go, or He wants you to go. But you're not able to do that if you're filled with hate, or you're filled with unforgiveness, if you're filled with despise or vengeance. God can't hook up with you on that. And I never really understood that. I mean, I do my best to forgive and to ask for forgiveness and to be a decent guy. But with what's gone on here in the last couple weeks, and I think everybody knows it except Mike from Grinnell, and Mike, you're just going to have to give me a call, buddy, and I'll fill you in. With everything that's gone on in the last couple weeks, I was, as you can imagine, I could have chosen to be at my lowest. And for some reason, I gave it to God. I guess not for some reason. We know why. I really only had two choices. Give it to God or scorched earth. And for those of you that know me long enough, I do scorched earth really well, but it's really a horrible thing. It's not something I'm proud of. I haven't done it in a very long time. But there are instances that I back up into a wall, and we all have that scorched earth button. We all have that ability to clean house, or whatever you want to call it. But in the midst of scorched earth, nobody survives, and everybody gets hurt, and it's just a bad deal. And nobody should ever scorch earth. I think of parents who have lost their children to drunk drivers, or I think of parents who have had their daughter raped, who didn't have their daughter raped, I'm sorry, you know what I meant, whose daughter was raped, and they find the rapist, and that the rage inside of that father or that mother. I guess I speak from a father's standpoint. I can only imagine what it takes not to take the law into your own hands. I call it cowboy justice, and scorched earth, with no concerns about the consequences to yourself, that you'll end up probably spending the rest of your life in prison, that you'll probably make it worse for the family. But sometimes scorched earth is the only thing you know within you. Well, I had two choices, and that was scorched earth or give it to God. And I couldn't do it just a little. I couldn't do most of it. It couldn't be 99.6%. It had to be there. And for the first time in my life, I understood the poem Footprints. Oh, I knew the whole idea that you're walking down the beach and Jesus is there with you, and He's helping you along the way, and you turn around and you look at Jesus and say, but Jesus, there's only one set of footprints. You weren't there with me. And Jesus says, yes, I was carrying you. That's what last week was like for me. And I have never submitted my will as I did last week. I never saw God work within my life like He did last week. I'm great. I'm great. I am happy. I am content. I am excited about the future. And I just don't have much of an interest in doing anything with the past, including letting people live between my ears. I've never been able to do that so well. It always takes me some time to forgive. And Pastor Mike taught me a long time ago that the definition of forgiveness is when you pray for those people who have hurt you. And you pray for their health, and you pray for their success, and you pray for the well-being, and you have no hope in the back of your mind that should they fail, you'll have a little smile to your face. I don't feel that. Not even a little bit of it. I worked hard in the last couple of weeks to make sure, as King Solomon proved in Kings, not to cut the baby in half. I worked very hard to make sure that didn't happen. And you know what? God made sure it didn't happen. The baby did not get cut in half. It survives and will grow and will be amazing. And what I'll do, right now it's Max Worldwide, right here, 9 o'clock in the morning, most mornings. Coming up, we got plans. It's awesome stuff. But for right now, it's slow, it's thinking, it's planning, getting our act together, and making sure that when we go ta-da, it's all the way in. None of this halfway, we're on, we're off, they're there, we're not there. Anyway, that's what God did for me in the last week. Yeah, I got my radar on, so I think God does this for a lot of people. And maybe you had your own experience in Holy Week last week. But for me, I've never submitted my will to God like I did last week and had Him just pick it up and just carry me across. Easter was an amazing day for me. He has risen. Indeed, He has risen. I used to lead. I've given up my lead. I now follow. And I follow Him completely. And I don't know how that's going to work for me, because I got a lot of flaws. I got a lot of things I got to work on in my life. But it was a pretty cool Holy Week. I mean, think about it. I was betrayed. People doubted. You realize at the foot of the cross, only one of the 12 apostles was there. Only one. The rest of them were scared to death that they were going to be the next one hanging there. And I'm not so sure I wouldn't have been scared to death either. I'm not so sure I would have been at the foot of the cross. I'm not so sure I wouldn't have been hightailing it back to my fishing hut in Galilee. But when Jesus did rise from the dead, it started an amazing movement called Christianity. And He had to be betrayed. He had to be glorified. He had to be, I mean, just think, they stood at the foot of the cross. On Palm Sunday, they said, praise Him, hallelujah. He is the King of the Jews. And a week later, they're saying, crucify Him. And yet, God raised Him up on Sunday and showed the whole world what the truth was. So, the truth shall set you free, and the truth is on its way. That's going to wrap it up for me today. Guys, yes, Mac's going to make another baby. You gosh darn right I'm going to make another baby. You wait till you see that baby, Rich. You think this baby's good? Wait till you see that baby. Anyway, I got to go to church and help them tear down that set. It took them forever to build, and I got to go. I just feel led to go over and help them today, so I'm going to go do that. You guys have a great day. Remember, you can always email me. You can go to the web. Can you still contact me off the website? I don't know. Let me put my email up there. I think you guys all have it, but I'm not sure what's functioning on the website and what's not. I know the player is, because you're able to see me. But there's my email, and you guys have my phone number, I think. My cell phone number is not a secret. So you can always call and talk. And just remember that every setback is a setup for a comeback. It's one of my Macisms. Every setback is a setup for a comeback. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and thanks for listening. I love this job, and I couldn't do it without you. Right here at MaxWorldLive.com.